started.
Wonderful. Thank you. Good morning. I'll call the meeting to order. Acknowledge commissioners on Microsoft Teams and note that due to the COVID-19 pandemic, the commission is meeting virtually. This meeting is being live streamed on the Port's YouTube channel. If you have a question or comment, please use the raise hand function to ensure everyone has an opportunity to speak and so that I can call folks in order. To begin, I'd call for a motion and second for approval of the minutes. We have three sets of minutes to approve: the special commission meeting of June 8th, 2021, regular commission meeting of June 9th, 2021, and the special commission meeting of June 29th, 2021. Do we have a motion and second?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Pam will lead us through a roll call vote, please.
Commissioners Alexander,
Aye.
Kupro-Comas,
Aye.
Lamb,
Aye.
Levy,
Aye.
McDonald, Nemi, O'Halloran,
Aye.
Sumput,
Aye.
and Strader. Okay.
Thank you. I will ask Bobby Stedman to provide the Executive Director's report and remarks.
You're on mute, Bobby.
Thank you, Stan. Good morning, everyone. I'm sitting in for Curtis, who's out of town today. I want to first acknowledge the Port's monthly safety champions. Those photos should be on the screen now for you to review. And I will ask Stan to please read our safety message.
Thanks, Bobby. Today's message is a report on the Port's fiscal year progress on our employees' safety and health journey. Port continues to take ground on our journey to advance our employees' safety culture. Over the fiscal year just closed, we continued work to build the capability to have safety and health conversations in the workplace among supervisors and individual contributors. I want to highlight a few of the significant accomplishments that will have enduring value as we continue to progress and mature our safety and health programs. Through safety culture advancements, we improved the reporting of incidents across the enterprise, a total of 124, the second most in a 12-month period. We drove process rigor of safety incident investigations to understand the facts of the incidents and use our learning culture to prevent reoccurrences. We averaged over 5 safety hazards reported per month before an incident occurred, a total of 68 for the year. Our corrective action plan database tracked the safety work and learning from 192 safety issues with 379 tasks to a closure rate of 86%. We executed on documented business line and enterprise safety plans to address opportunity indicators within the CAT Employee Safety Perception Survey report with quarterly metrics. We developed safety and health e-learning courses on COVID-19 education and training, corrective action plan tool use, and hazard and incident reporting. We executed on our COVID pandemic regulatory response for port essential workers and construction project workers and launched a remote work ergonomics program for port staff. We implemented our owner-controlled insurance program for the T-Core construction project, which is operating at an exceptional safety level. We continued to recognize our safety and health champions and celebrated their accomplishments each month. And we continued education of our safety and health program to maintain execution of our safety and health program to maintain OSHA compliance. Employee safety and health is a guiding principle on how we perform work at the Port of Portland. This year, we continued work to integrate safety performance in all of our job position descriptions. Further, our COVID pandemic response protocols have strengthened that safety principle throughout the port to enable forthright safety conversations and planning for operational excellence, all leading to the achievement of the lowest ever fiscal year total recordable incident rate of 1.89, which is even more impressive when you understand how this trailing indicator is supported by multiple key leading measures of safety performance, which are actively managed every day. I want to congratulate all the employees for their efforts in making this a great year in safety and health. Bobby, that's my message.
Super. Thank you, Stan. A few updates for you. First on PDX Next. So last week, several folks got a tour of the new roof being built near the North Runway and the Oregon Market demolition. I understand it's pretty impressive with the huge wooden curves being built, not an easy feat when working with lumber. Currently, crews are taking the glue lam, which is those giant curvy wooden pieces that are custom built in Eugene by Zippo, and they're assembling the individual blocks on airport grounds, but off the runway. While I was unable to take the tour, I was able to see the site as I flew over on Alaska Airlines on my way to Santa Cruz a couple weekends ago, flying over the north or along the North Runway. And I encourage any of you that are traveling over the upcoming months to take a peek during takeoff. It's pretty cool, very impressive work. Throughout 2021, crews will continue working on enough of these giant cassettes, as they're called, to build the full roof. And in 2022, the finished pieces will fit together to form one of the largest sustainable timber projects in recent history, with much of the wood sourced in close partnership with the Yakima, Kuki, and Skokomish tribes, as well as other regional tree farms. Tomorrow, July 15th, marks the 1-year anniversary of the opening of the Southwest Concourse E extension at PDX. And to celebrate, Tillamook is giving away cheese, yogurt, and ice cream sandwiches to a few lucky Southwest flight passengers. Great progress on funding for design and engineering of the seismic runway project at PDX. Last month, the state legislature approved $4 million in lottery bond proceeds for the project. The U.S. House Appropriations Committee voted to advance the fiscal year 22 spending bill for the Department of Homeland Security, including $3.75 million for the seismic runway, and many more steps in fiscal year 2022 federal appropriations process. But we're grateful for state and federal elected recognition on the importance of this project. Aviation operations will soon be lifting the social distancing requirements in queuing, in seating areas, and removing the rule that limits the terminal to ticketed passengers only. The federal standards will still apply, which will require the masking and social distancing in all public areas. Therefore, they're still leaving the signage in place that reminds the public that face masks are still required when traveling and also when indoors in the terminal at PDX. Port administrative employees will be transitioning to the office on September 7th, day after Labor Day, in a hybrid schedule of 3 in-person and 2 remote work days. At the end of 6 months, the port's going to reassess the benefits and challenges of the hybrid schedule and adjust if necessary. There's a change management team working on all of this right now, led by Heather Chow. They have 3 sub-teams. One's focused on data collection and communication, another focused on creating and facilitating a return to office experience that welcomes new employees and builds employee engagement. And then the 3rd sub-team is working on creating tools, resources, and training to support decision-making around remote work. And then finally, June 19th was the last day of the Red Lot vaccination clinic. During its operation, we provided over 252,000 vaccinations. We'd like to end this chapter of amazing work with a little video for you, and then that will conclude the executive director comments. So I cue the video.
I've done a lot of cool things at the port, but nothing quite as meaningful and comparable as this.
Typically, when we're responding, there's a lot of effort that goes into the response. Everybody gears up.
Building the infrastructure and keep changing the processes so that we had a smooth flow, that was all very, very new.
It was daunting at first, and then the team got to work.
It entails getting all of the infrastructure set up for the site, large tents that are in place. They had to be held down by concrete barriers. They had to be weatherproofed. There is electricity that we have run to the site, but initially when we started, we didn't have time to plug in electricity, so we brought in generators.
10,000 hand warmers, 3,000 ponchos, 22,000 meals. The magnitude of all of the things to keep your volunteers warm, safe, is amazing.
It felt hopeful, and it felt like the beginning.
We just knew that this was the one way that we could actually make it happen.
For this clinic, opening day was pretty meaningful. Watching the cars stream in and watching them line up, and I just had this thought, I'm like, we're gonna do this. We are gonna get through this. Like, look at the hundreds of cars who are here. These are people who believe that there is an end in sight.
In my field of emergency management, that is all partnerships, employees, different departments, so you work across sectors to make things happen. We had Red Cross volunteers that were assisting us. A really positive surprise to me was getting to know and working especially with the OHSU leadership and the team on site.
And imagine the port teaching us about infrastructure and flow of vehicles, and imagine us teaching them about shots in arms.
And that help is invaluable. It doesn't matter if you're directing traffic or if you're putting a needle in the arm. We needed you to be here and do this, and people showed up in droves to do it. When we were running this clinic from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m., kind of in the height of it all, there were more than 500 volunteers a day. These are people who said, I can do something. They put their hand up because they want to help. That's what keeps our community going. People who step up.
Thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to be a part of the solution, be a part of the recovery.
These three partners, OHSU, Red Cross, and Port of Portland, developing something so successful.
I don't have enough words to thank the colleagues of mine who have given their time so selflessly.
I would say this is one of the most important things I've done in my life.
To me, this is everything.
It's time. It feels like, okay, we've done our job. We've done what we needed to do here.
Thanks, Bobby, for ending on that note. Amazing work, I know, was done at the Red Lot and by Port employees of, from all over the organization. Truly, truly impressive, and I think will be for years remembered by people gratefully in our community. I also want to congratulate Port staff and Stan on the impressive safety results. That's fantastic, and clearly keeping at the forefront what's really important in terms of keeping people safe and making sure people are educated about what needs to be reported and how safety should be a priority. And finally, I did have the opportunity to fly over and see some of the construction of the roof supports, and it is quite impressive. I hope that other commissioners have that opportunity as well. Want to make sure to ask if there are any comments before we ask for a motion and second for approval of the executive director's report. Okay, hearing none, I'll ask for a motion and second for approval of the report.
So moved.
Second. Second.
Thank you. Pam?
Commissioners Alexander,
Aye.
Kupro-Comas, Lamb,
Aye.
Levy,
Aye.
McDonald,
Aye.
Nemi, Commissioner Nemi,
Commissioner Nemi, you're on mute.
Yeah, sorry.
There we-
Aye.
Sumput, or O'Halloran, sorry,
Aye.
Sumput,
Aye.
and Strader. Thank you.
Thank you, Pam. I'll note that we did not receive public comments this month, and so we'll move on to our general discussion item, which Bobby will introduce for us.
Yes, thank you for commissioners. Over the last couple of months, Kristen Leonard has met with each of you individually asking you a series of questions to help inform our strategic planning process. So the executive team is planning to have a retreat in August for a couple of days to reflect on its current strategic plan in light of our shared prosperity vision, and to see what shifts we might need to make to our strategic plan. So those interviews that each of you had over the last several weeks were really to help inform and guide our thinking as we go into that conversation in August. Today, what we would like to do is Kristen's going to share with you sort of the themes that came out of those conversations with each of you, give you a little bit of time to reflect and comment to make sure, to validate, to make sure that those themes are correct. And then we posed a couple of additional questions for you that we hoped that you guys could bandy about and discuss again in this session to help further inform us as we go into our strategic planning session in August. So we have a timeline. I think I'm going to ask, this next slide, please, just to give you an idea of how we're progressing here. So we did the interviews with each of you in June and July. We're doing this debrief now on themes, and then have a further discussion on a couple of meaty questions. And then early August, we'll go off-site. We want to be able to come back to you probably the September, October timeframe with our thinking around the strategic plan. And then we're not sure if we'll do that in commission or ask for a special session. Just depends on what we have to share and where it makes sense for us to engage you in that process. We realize that you're all busy, but also very interested in this work. And then our expectation is that on a semi-annual basis, we would come back to you in commission and give you a report on that progress. So the intent for today's conversation that Kristen's going to lead us through really is to, again, sort of share with you those common themes, validate that we heard you correctly, discuss a couple of those other meaty questions, just so that we can get your perspective. This isn't about making any decisions around anything at this point. We really just want to hear what you have to say about these things, hear your perspective, so that we can enter that into the room when we get together in August. So with that, Kristen, I'm going to hand it over to you.
Terrific. Thank you, Bobby. And as Bobby outlined, really the hope here, the goal was to start the process of gathering input, feedback, insights from all of you individually on our organizational direction, priorities, engagement, really thinking through and setting some foundational bodies of work and information, feedback, thoughts as we entered this process. And so there was, as each of you know, because you all participated in the process, there were 8 key questions that we went through individual team interviews that were scheduled through May and June. What I have done is I've broken the information from those 8 questions really into 4 buckets that we'll go through today. And within those buckets, tried to capture the common, the key themes, the common threads that we were hearing in feedback and insights from all of you. The first we'll go over our big picture themes. Opportunities and challenges is the second bucket, and as several of you outlined and referenced, the same issue can be characterized as an opportunity or a challenge depending on how we look at it. The third bucket is building shared prosperity into this strategic planning process, getting your thoughts on that work. And then the fourth bucket is measuring our impact. So I'll go over these 4 buckets, kind of the common themes, and then President Cooper-Comas will help facilitate just further dialogue on 2 kind of deep dive questions into our overarching mission and the vision for shared prosperity. So, and as is the practice, this meeting is being recorded, so we will be able to go back, capture your insights, and then also, if there's any detailed questions, we will provide a follow-up at a later time. So first bucket, those big picture themes about our organization, kind of how are we doing, where are we going? A common thread from all of you is that the Port is a high functioning and very professional organization. It was a complementary set of kind of responses and feedback just about how we are operating and our niche and area of expertise and the professionalism of the team at the Port. A second common thread was we need to ensure that the Port's mission adapts for the future. And that in a lot of different ways, you've conveyed an interest to kind of revisit, okay, we've been operating for quite some time under this mission. Does it still feel right track? And that leads to our discussion later. We need to drive prosperity beyond Port employees and historic business partners. That was a common thread throughout the questions. And then our public mission really offering a great opportunity for community impact. That a lot of this is why we are here. And so there's a lot of exciting opportunities afforded to us with that public mission. I have to put a star next to, I really should have put a star next to this next bullet point because you all conveyed this message to us in your own words, but we need to prioritize activities, initiatives, constituencies. We can't be everything to everyone. And the fact that we need to make some decisions about where we show up, not only how we show up, but where we show up, and recognize that we can't do it all. So there's going to be a lot of work in this strategic planning to make sure we've prioritized our efforts. And then our service region certainly extends beyond the Tri-County boundaries. And, you know, this recognition that, you know, we are a statewide asset, but not even statewide. We're bi-state or tri-state in many respects in our impacts on moving people and goods. And that was a common thread that came through. And maybe, Madam President, I'll go through the 4 slides and then we can get some feedback if folks feel like this is adequately capturing the themes.
Thank you, Chris. That's great.
Perfect. If we can move to the next slide, our opportunities and challenges. So here's a perfect example of both an opportunity and challenge, which is COVID economic recovery. We see this as an opportunity for equitable redevelopment, an opportunity to think through and really be strategic as to the businesses and where we're providing uplift within the community. And at the same time, we've got some challenges as it relates to Portland's reputation. And while this is not our to fix or, you know, solely, we are certainly going to find ourselves in partnership on some of the reputational issues in the region. A common thread, not necessarily common in what the policies or issues are on the horizon, but that we need to be really thoughtful in how we engage in public policy, everything from trade, climate, workforce. There's a lot of policy debate going on, and how we show up is going to be really important in those conversations in the next decade. Recovery of international air service. This was a common theme from many, if not all of you, just that this is going to need to be a priority, and we've got to continue to figure out how we rebuild. And you know, that probably could have been a sub bullet under the COVID economic recovery, but it was a common theme throughout. And then creating or enhancing the youth education training pipeline. There were a lot of different ideas being brought forward by you and your fellow colleagues as it relates to how are we really thinking about bringing our future workforce along and making sure that we are starting early and contemplating what that looks like as in the entire kind of pipeline of education to career. All right, next slide. Building shared prosperity into the strategic plan. Again, there were it was really amazing, the common themes and threads throughout. The efforts must apply consistently across port lines of business. This needs to be an enterprise-wide approach, an enterprise-wide lens, that this isn't just one corner of the organization. There was a consistent feeling of this is the right track, shared prosperity being the right track as a vision for the organization, but there were differing opinions on whether the port is moving too fast or too slow into this work. And so that was a space where we had different viewpoints on, yes, right track, but kind of the speed and timeline, if you will. The next is the port committing to take the necessary time for impactful change. You were consistently warning us to be careful of getting caught in, okay, we're expecting results, you know, in the next year, and that's our timeline for our strategic plan refresh. We're gonna get X, Y, and Z done in the next year, and you were all very thoughtful in warning us, take the time. It's be intentional, but recognize that to change a culture within an organization and to really have this lens kind of take, if you will, or sink in, that we've got to be prepared for time. And then finally, create early opportunities for relationship, partnership, and collaboration with BIPOC communities, and making sure that we're not sitting down with these communities when all the ideas are fully baked, if you will, that we really need to enter these partnerships and these relationships early so that we've got the opportunity to build together what this future vision looks like. And then the final slide. And then measuring impact, as we all recognize, an important element of any of this work, strategic planning, shared prosperity work, is making sure that we've created metrics and we're measuring our progress. There was a consistent theme throughout that we need to set a baseline of where we are today. There were, I don't know, concerns may be too strong of a word, but there were concerns that as commissioners, you would find yourself in a difficult position of articulating where we started, so that we can talk about progress being made. So making sure that we have done the work of setting the baseline, arming you with that information so that then you can be really looking at progress, looking at our metrics over time, and giving us, you know, a thumbs up or a thumbs down as to how we are progressing. you asked that we demonstrate progress in application of shared prosperity across business lines. So this goes back to the previous slide, that this is an enterprise-wide effort. And that also needs to show up in our metrics as to how we are doing throughout the organization, not just in any one corner of the organization or one business line. We need to be challenging ourselves to better measure the impact, both positive and negative, of port investment. So really looking at what are those best practices out there, and if there aren't for measuring impact, then we need to do the necessary work to find ways to measure what is our impact, so that we're best able to make decisions with this shared prosperity lens. Measuring community engagement and collaboration. We've started down that road, and appropriately, you have come back and said, this is good, but keep on keeping on, that this is going to be really important. And this doesn't always show up in a quantitative framework. It's not always just the number of meetings, it's the quality and the qualitative kind of measurement that we need to just continue to work on and improve on, as far as feedback to all of you. Focus metrics on impacts to people and workforce. So this is in the framework more of not just what are the key business performance indicators, how are we impacting people and the workforce in our community and in our region. And then finally, a common thread was measuring success by who is standing with us. What did those partnerships kind of manifest into as to long-term relationships, but outcomes for our partners, the port, the region, and really looking at who's standing there with us as we move forward in this work. So, Madam President, that is, those are the kind of general themes of the feedback we received.
Thanks, Kristen. Before we move on to the questions, I want to give commissioners an opportunity to let us know, or let you guys know, if they feel like these slides and the themes you described captured their concerns, issues, questions about this, and or whether they want to fill out any parts of it. And we have some hands raised. Just give me a second. Commissioner McDonald, please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam President. I wanted to compliment all of you on the process and for taking the time to engage all of us and perform the interviews. I thought the summary was a very good summary, Kristen. Looking forward to the next steps.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other comments, questions, concerns about the interviews and the interview themes that Kristen captured and discussed here? One moment. Commissioner Levy.
I might not be smart enough to get the hand down, so
Okay.
forgive me. I think the slides that Kristen just went through with regards to my comments are spot on, and I think that the slides are a very, very good summary of what lies ahead of the port in this issue, and I commend the presentation today.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Alexander?
There we go. Yes, Madam President. I wanted to also offer my appreciation for the kind of synthesis that was created in this, and in many ways, you know, in terms of the time spent with me, you've been able to weave gold out of straw. So thank you very much. And I'm hoping that this will really be a pathway for both the leadership team and commission to travel to places that, as an organization, we've committed to navigate. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Sampath.
Yes, again, I want one more +1 and echoing what the other commissioners have said. Kristen and team, you've done an exceptional job in synthesizing all the different points of view and coming out with a pretty cogent problem statement that you're going to tackle. One comment on one of the slides, we talk about reaching out to the BIPOC community, and reaching to the BIPOC community is important and a focus and goal for us. I'm wondering whether we should broaden the lens and talk specifically about economically underserved, which then includes others who may not specifically identify as BIPOC, but can and should benefit from our work.
Thank you for that, Commissioner Sampath, and I think it merits some discussion here amongst the group. From my perspective, and again, it's my viewpoint, you know, as I understand what the court is thinking about and what we are talking about here, and as commissioners have a responsibility for, is expanding the focus of the port's activities to really think about economic prosperity writ large. We have adopted a policy that puts a racial equity lens on the activities of the port, and I think that would apply here as well. But my sense is not that there will be folks who are left out of the work that we're trying to do. There will be a racial equity lens, from my perspective, that applies here as it does to all of the other activities of the port. And again, an acknowledgement, right, that because of systemic racism, the folks who are at the bottom of every ladder, including those who've not been engaged with the economic prosperity that the port creates, are folks in the BIPOC community. I would welcome other people's input or insight or concerns on that as well. I see Commissioner Lamb.
Yes. First of all, thank you, Kirsten, for your extensive work. This is a great work, and I think that it's a journey. It's not a sprint, and so we will need to have some sort of patience moving forward as we moving along in this journey. And one of my comment is once you have a baseline, can you share that with us so we know where is our starting line point? But also, if you have any great work done, also share that, because I think that's will motivate us as we moving forward with this journey. And I just have to say, it's a great work, and I am glad that the port see this is an opportunity to create a very meaningful legacy for everyone in this community. So I'm really appreciated, and thank you.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. Commissioner Levy.
So this morning I went back and reviewed the material that had been sent out over the last couple of years. And the conclusion I kind of came to was much of what you're trying to do, some of it is internal, like within the port, the shared prosperity DEI work. Much of it affects external, meaning our partners, not just construction and those type of activities that go on and build and continue to build the port and the contracts, but also our partners inside the airport. And I think that as you progress through the process, that measuring the impact on those partners, so that not only do they share in the joy and the successes of watching this progress, but that we not overburden them to the point where we affect port, the port and their customers, like inside the airport. Also, that was of some concern. Internally, I think within the port, I think it's important. I'm not quite sure I like there's like an appendix 2 or something that the plus or minus $100,000 impact on the port. It seems like there needs to be some work done on how the work impacts the port internally to make sure that the port shares in the responsibility of the changes and measuring those changes and making sure that we don't just push stuff downhill, so to speak. And I'd be interested in somebody else's comments about that if they have any. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. I just want to repeat what you said so that I can make sure I understand your last point in particular, which is to the extent that some of the strategies that come out of this impact our community and our partners more broadly, we need to make sure that it's not a one-way street. In other words, that the port has responsibility, investment, and skin in the game as well, to the extent that we're asking other people to take that on. Is that a fair?
Yeah, I mean, a sideboard would be like, well, if the port spent $100,000 or, lost $100,000 in the effort or spent $100,000 in the effort, but our partners inside the airport and construction people spent, hundreds of thousands of dollars complying with stuff that the port had them do that maybe it was out of balance. And so I think we need to make sure that that the port internally share in the responsibility and not just say, hey, go do this.
Thank you for that.
How do I get rid of the hand?
There you go. Oh. I'm not sure. You can keep your hand up, Commissioner. I'm sure we'll appreciate all of your comments going forward. And any other comments on this piece before we move to the questions that have been framed for us for discussion? I think it's important for all commissioners to have had an opportunity to speak, whether in the interviews or outside of it, before the staff tries to refine this further for us. Okay, so I think these questions were sent to us in advance, and we just again want to engage in general conversation around them. As you see here from the slide, we put forward, the staff has put forward a definition of shared prosperity, and we want to make sure that this adequately reflects the Commissioner's vision and the Commission's vision of the port's shared prosperity work. So it's really a question about, is this too broad? Is it too narrow? Is it appropriate? Again, thinking about we're trying to build a plan around this as opposed to come up with tactics at this particular moment, but want to make sure that there's general agreement around the definition of shared prosperity. Any concerns with this definition?
No.
I support the definition.
Thank you, Commissioner Levy. Well, Commissioner Alexander, go ahead.
Yeah, I support the definition. I think the last sentence, to create jobs and build wealth for communities who were previously excluded from sharing in the prosperity of our region. I think in some cases the exclusion is spot on, and in some cases they were prevented or unable. I mean, there's not the intentionality associated with excluded. Excluded to me translates into a very deliberate and a very deliberate path and strategy that was intentional. I think there were also unintended consequences where people are unable to share in the prosperity, but it may not have been for the same motive. So again, I know there's a lot of work that's going under this, and it's been baked and locked and loaded, but potentially thinking about this is from communities who have been excluded or unable to share covers both the intended and unintended consequences. It's just a thought.
Thank you, Commissioner. I particularly can think about, folks in the disability community who may not have been unintentionally left out, but for whom our processes have not allowed active participation. And I agree with that, absolutely. Any other comments or questions or concerns about the definition of shared prosperity? This will really move the staff in thinking about how to put a program together, understanding that it will be an initial plan. So we want to make sure we've properly covered the definitional pieces. Okay, it looks like we can, Commissioner Alexander, do you have another comment?
No. Did I take my hand down or?
Not yet.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. So it looks like we can move to the next slide then. As you see, these are articulations of the what and how. The first one obviously is a legal definition put down by the legislature with respect to the port and what its purpose is, if you will, what we are here to do. The second is the how, which is a mission statement that was adopted, that had been adopted by the commission probably before our time. And we want to make sure, again, that it fits and works for us as we think about how we're moving the what forward. Obviously, there are lots of ways of promoting maritime shipping, aviation, commercial, industrial interests of the port and of our region. And we are trying to find a new way. We want to make sure that folks are comfortable with the how, or whether we need to have further discussion about the mission statement more generally. It's a tough question, and maybe we got it right from the beginning, but we want to make sure everybody's comfortable with this mission statement. I would say for myself that I think that the piece that I question a little bit is the promotion of industrial development. Is that broad enough, really, for how we're thinking about our regional impact? The other pieces I think are much more clear. But is it industrial development alone, or is it, regional prosperity that may involve industrial development, but may involve, for example, housing or something else? So, Commissioner Nemi?
Thank you, Madam President. Yeah, I think on the how, I have a similar question. I feel like if we are applying a shared prosperity lens to this, it seems to be absent from this. And I think economy and quality of life can both be used to leave behind low income and people of color. I think it depends on, how we actually look at those pieces. And I think that there's the transportation impacts, but I think we've talked at times about what are those broader impacts that we have in the overall economy. So I do feel like that is missing from, if we're saying, is this still our mission? I think it could be broader to address those.
Sorry, is there a particular articulation, Commissioner Nemi, or particular concepts that you would want to add to the mission statement to capture that?
Trying to keep in line with the similar language that we've been using, I guess in the how, I would think about adding shared prosperity or a commitment to elevate the standards for the Black, Indigenous, people of color in our region.
So as I hear what you're proposing is that the mission statement specifically include the shared prosperity analysis, as opposed to having that be a separate conversation or a separate piece here, not just strategic, yes, but mission. Okay,
yes.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Commissioner Sampat?
Yeah, I think the first half of the House statement, region's economy and quality of life, I think still resonates. and I don't want to necessarily wordsmith right here, but the last phrase, by promoting industrial development, I think you, Madam President, you brought it up, but if we can broaden that phrase by promoting industrial and economic development, or a phrase like that, that says, you know, the resources that we have within our purview can be applied to something more than what is regarded as traditional industry.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. A much better articulation of what I was trying to say. Commissioner O'Halloran.
Just to extend on that thought, I mean, in the past couple comments, you may be able to capture it by just saying promoting industrial and economic development for all communities. You know, and that kind of pulls the shared prosperity into it a little bit. But again, not to wordsmith, but I think we could let the perfect be the enemy of the good, but I think we're on the right track here.
Thank you, Commissioner. Kristen, I want to make sure that you're getting the kind of feedback that you need from us as you think about your retreat.
Absolutely. This is very helpful. And like I said, I'm taking notes here, but we will be able to capture all of these comments before our retreat. It's very much appreciated.
Great. Want to make sure we've had given everyone an opportunity to provide some thoughts either here or individually to the staff. But if all have done so, we can move to the rest of the agenda. Any last words? Okay, thank you very much, Commissioners, for that important discussion. I'll now move on to the consent item and ask if any commissioner wants a presentation on that consent item. Should have received the materials. Okay, seeing none, I'll read the title of the consent item, Estacada Enterprise Zone Boundary Adjustment. And I'll call for a motion and second for approval of the consent item.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Pam, would you lead us through the roll call vote, please?
Yes, Commissioners Alexander,
Aye.
Kupro-Comas,
Aye.
Lamb,
Aye.
Levy,
Aye.
McDonald,
Aye.
Nemi,
Aye.
O'Halloran,
Aye.
and Sumput.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Commissioners. The meeting is adjourned. We'll see you next month.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you.